Right now we have Naim over here, and he's going to be talking to you about maker education. So please join me in welcoming him.
Hi everyone. Okay, thank you for coming for the last session. First of all, I would like to congratulate one maker, and actually I met William a few months back in Maker Week in KL. So then later he invited me to speak on maker education. First of all, just to check around, how many of you here have got kids? Okay. How many of you think that education is so important? Okay, I think it's two tricky questions because education and maker seems to be quite separated, it's quite isolated. So I'm going to share with you a little bit what we did in Foresight Young Innovators Studio. First of all, I'm not supposed to be here. I always visited Singapore as a corporate lawyer, do a lot of merger and acquisition transaction, foreign direct investment. But back in 2011, I started to think that being a corporate lawyer is just plain boring. You make a deal and then you get an award. And I started to really do deep reflection. And I'm seeing my kids. And two of my kids are quite special because first, my eldest is autistic, Asperger. And I'm luckiest father because I got the second one, dyslexic. So my house every day is just about World War II. Having Asperger and having dyslexic in the same room is quite a horrible occurrence for my wife and myself. So, and I started to think, what can I contribute to the society that really give impact rather than being a corporate lawyer. And I started the initiative, which I call it Foresight Young Innovators Studio. This is a very simple notion that as much as we focus education based on exam and paper excellence, we are not going to go anywhere. I'm not suggesting that there is no people supposed to be academically excellent. There should be someone taking care of the policy, being professional, being lawyer, being chartered accountant and others. But the other group of people should more focus towards innovation driven education. I'm sure you have heard about this. It's a pretty much cliche where Einstein said everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it's stupid. The moment I got it, I started writing a book back in 2007. Just keep asking students all over Malaysia, do you know your talent? And the answer is that 75% of students graduating from secondary schools, they have no idea what their talents are. What they understand is how many grades they have got during SPM or A-level exams. So it struck me to the nerve whereby people don't really understand what is talent. In Malaysia, they know talent is academic fantasia. They are able to sing well, he got talent. But talent is actually more diverse than it seems to be. And I'm sure the success of this program is because we are able to gather diverse group of talented individuals from the region. So it's a hands clap to William for having this organization. When I started establishing Foresight Young Innovators Studio, I keep asking what future school is going to look like. And I keep asking it from different angles. I should ask education professor in university. But instead, I actually asked a magazine. Have you heard an American magazine, they call it Fast Company? Okay? I asked a group of editors from Fast Company, what future school is going to look like? And they replied that it is better you ask 50 most innovative company in Fast Company list. Because those companies are not big yet, but they are going to be the future of big corporation. For example, Google used to be a small startup. Facebook back in 2007 was just a tiny startup which is ignored by everyone. It goes just have you heard one company, Boston Dynamics? Boston Dynamics is going to be next robotic that going to transcend beyond security, public enmities and others. DeepMind is an artificial intelligence startup based in Britain. Is going to be the future. So I asked myself, what if I started an innovation center for kids, for teens and for the youth that is based what these 50 most innovative company in a fast company is gonna do. And we are emulating some of the best practices done in those startups. But it's quite difficult because, come again, what Einstein said, the problem with maker, especially in Malaysia, people consider doing fabrications lab or have a maker and lab workshops are actually regarded for dropouts. Those people who are not really excellent in reading textbook and memorizing and scoring for exam. So it's a kind of a perception as if like maker movement and others are not really meant for the so-called white collar, as William said earlier on during the opening speech. Because the white collar, the white collar is supposed to be the professional who are actually excellent in exam. But at the same time, we believe the future of work is going to be a free agency. This is what Kelly Services has mentioned back in 2011. And I think the rise of free agency model of work are radically rising all over the world. Free agency means 75% according to Kelly Services, the group of work all over the world will be depending on independent contractors, freelancing, and also consultant that is actually working for big corporation. So that means big corporation will be able to save costs for their bottom line. So there will be a huge rising of free agents kind of work. But now the question is, how can maker movement contribute to this future of work? For our kids, as mentioned earlier, is going to be a rising youth in the regions that's going to be joining the workforce for the next perhaps 7 years, 10 years down the road. I'm sure the transition in Malaysia or in the region is very much about the transition between the factory economy to the investment-driven economy, now heading towards innovation-driven economy. Of course, it's a different for one country to the others in the ASEAN context. Singapore might be a little bit ahead of time in terms of adopting innovation-driven economy. Malaysia is having some middle income trap whereby we would like to become more innovation-driven, but at the same time we don't have the conducive ecosystem. So it is a pretty much self-assessment for everyone to really gauge where each country is heading. But the problem now is most of people are actually stuck in the factory-driven economy where we work 9 to 5, we allow ourselves to be part of the giant system and get salary and others. But the problem is our graduates, our youth, our children won't be able to enjoy successful life if we get trapped into this economy. Now we need to move into this innovation-driven economy. That's why Foresight was designed to train kids to be adaptable to innovation-driven economy in terms of mindset and others. This is the other one. This is from Forrester Consulting. I'm just giving you some insight. Where are we heading in terms of social innovation, especially after the mobile web, where all the technological innovation back in the 1970s has actually contributed a lot toward what we call it as a PC revolutions. But what Peter Thiel mentioned the other day during the conversation with Eric Smith, when he criticized Google, that Google has contributed a lot in terms of innovations, in terms of search engines and virtual ubiquity. But a lot of other innovation can be driven, especially clean water, healthcare, education, poverty eradication and others. And this space is actually open for makers. Maker will be able to fill up the gap. As I heard, I listened to the talk by Autodesk just now, how Autodesk will be able to address and keep help makers to really fill up the gap for social innovation after the mobile web revolution. In Foresight, we have 12 studios. Why we created 12 studios? Because we would like to have a cross-pollination, cross idea. Because some of the kids and some of the teens, they may not be adaptable towards technology very rapidly. This is a startup center where these are dropouts. In Malaysia, we have many boys who are not interested in schools. So they just ignore school and they drop out, and we just consider them as like Steve Jobs, so to speak. They are quite rebel in nature, but they are so creative. They don't want to wait for the system to pick them up, rather than they pick themselves up. But currently, the mainstream would consider them as misfit, dropouts, and all those negative connotation. But I see it differently. The moment I offer them the space free, they just need to bring the laptop and we give some services. Then they start discovering their talent through online business, e-book publications, and a lot of design services all over the net. So then we started investing to them, and after we keep investing. We start with 300 ringgit Malaysia, 1,000, 3,000, up to 10,000 ringgit, and then they will be able to pay back, and then we can in fact pass the fund to the other use. Currently, we have actually produced more than 500 students from the dropout groups, and because this is critical asset for any country, especially for men who are productive, who have the future, and most importantly, they have the leadership qualities. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to get into the gist of the matter. Of course, this is our mantra. The best way to predict the future is to invent it, as Foresight name suggested. Okay, what is Foresight Studio? Foresight Studio is a multidisciplinary studio. Why it has to be studio? Because I want just to give a new impression that the future of school is no longer classroom. Because classroom is just about compliance. You listen to the lecturer, and then you cannot answer, and you cannot actually question any queries and others. How it has to be multidisciplinary? Because life is so diverse now. So then we need to have more cross-pollinating experience across subject matters. Depends on the real needs. We are focusing on project-based and challenge-based learning. I'm going to talk a bit later. We also focus on innovation and entrepreneurship. The objective is to raise young innovators of the future by amplifying their dream, passion, and imagination. Let me go direct later. This is the quality that is so important, that Makerspace will be able to churn this potential out, because Makerspaces all over Asia having commitment and having responsibility to actually be part of the community for education. Sometimes people consider Makerspace is just for hobbies, for making things, but actually education system really require this kind of commitment, because only makers will be able to take initiative, starting up, and having the curiosity and grow beyond traditional schooling indoctrination. And this is the most hated word by any government, because we consider the mainstream system as kind of an indoctrination. It is up to you whether you agree or not. We have now our center in Brunei, focusing on social innovation practices, since Brunei having the most delicate problem of 26% youth unemployment and graduate unemployment. So we help them to start youth empowerment through startup education as well as makers. We are very focusing on makers is about making things, but most kids, they started dreaming, and this dreaming part is very difficult to build, but it's very easy to destroy. And that is why I think Makerspace has to emphasize on keep dreaming out, so then they will be able to make things. Because making things without dreaming, without imagination, sometimes is a quite, as William said, no purpose into making something. Because those people who keep dreaming as a children, so that they will be able to continue and being maker, letter, innovator, and most important thing, they end up becoming change maker. Because most of making, if they don't want to change something with purpose, we end up doing something for fun, which is sometimes it's just for our self gratification. We got one initiative where we call it Dreamers Project, just to live up dreams in kids. So it is not wrong to have dream, and we are actually sponsoring their dreams. We sponsor one student 1,000 ringgit. For example, one kid, she is dreaming to become a language translator, and she would like to travel. And we sponsor them 1,000 ringgit to get right translator or language teachers, as well as one entrepreneur from the travel agency company. So then we will be able to sponsor her dream at the age of 15 years old. So having dreamers is so important before having the maker out of every children. If I can summarize, our session is very simple. We focus on 3 areas for any maker, educator to really flourish. First of all, we focus on talent development, not grading, not collecting more certificate, not getting more A's than the others. The first actually circle is about whether have you found your talent or not. If you haven't found it, go and discover. Don't settle, as Steve Jobs always famously said. The moment you know your talent, and then you're gonna figure out how to creatively and innovatively try to make something, create something out of your talent. Innovation and creativity doesn't happen in vacuum. It happens based on what you are passionate about, what you are good at. And this has to be started with a talent discovery, or in this context, a talent development. And the last one, this is the most important, as the other speakers just now from MIT also mentioned about to bridge maker and entrepreneur. Because entrepreneur is just about putting the DNA and having a quick fix solution by putting someone non-entrepreneur to become entrepreneur. It's just about the startup culture. I'm not suggesting startup culture, it's just about the Silicon Valley kind of culture of starting up based on technology and others. It is just about the mindset that you have got the talent, you know how to sell and create value with your talent, and you will be able to start by your own, as small as or as little as it is. In Foresight, we started, our condition is every student by the age of 15 years old, they must have their own startup. At the age of 15 years old, we have already trained them business model canvas and all these languages of startup, like lean startup, MVP and others. It's quite radical in that regard, if we see in the context of mainstream education. But these 3 intersections, if it is properly intertwined, is going to be the heartbeat of maker revolution in context of education. 5. Okay, here the deal. I'm not sure whether as any one of you, I think educationists might discover this earlier on. Has been practiced, I think, less than 70 years ago, all over the world. They call it education taxonomy. Most education system in the world started with memorizing textbook, and we understand, we apply it in the context of exam paper, and then we try to analyze something, evaluate, and then this is the revision of a Bloom taxonomy, where the future of education, especially when it comes to maker, is about to create. That's why it is better where makerspaces organize program, education program for kids and students to be able to create something, even how brief and how uncomplicated it could be, because the whole models of lower order thinking and higher order thinking are no longer relevant in the context of rapid innovation at this moment. So this is the model that I would like to suggest to those makerspaces who would like to adopt or emulate education program in the makerspace, because education program in makerspace could actually contribute some of your bottom line and as cash flow, because makerspace considered as a very innovative education program if it is actually developed properly. This is the current model based on exams, and of course most of the country now try to adopt a more innovative model. But for makerspaces, we can start by having a project-based learning. Project-based, that means we have a specific well-designed activities, so then the student can start thinking and doing things by themselves. And later, we move to the challenge-based learning, where they start creating something out of nothing. And that's where I think education system having the weaknesses and the lack of putting a challenge, the challenge-based learning into the curriculum. So, and I see Makerspace has the potential to grow along the way. If I can summarize, Makerspace and in education can grow around 3 circles. Get the right people, the circle of passionate and hobbies or interested parties, before we get to know the group of learners who are able and willing to train. Because some of them, they might be an artist, they might be a practitioner in dancing, in others, which are not necessarily related to your specific makerspace. But more importantly, we need to get attached with the group of practitioners. Only then we will be able to design an education program, revolutionize education without an inch of government intervention or involvement, because we know most of government's programs in the mainstream education sometimes is too slow to adopt those changes. Okay, I wrap up my presentation. Thank you very much.